Hi, Curtis.
Hi, Alex. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you again. It's very cool to have you. So I'm going to introduce you to the My Record Dealer crowd. So I met with Curtis a few years back, first time in Japan through the man that...
No, that was a lot before.
Oh, no, yeah, in Paris.
That was in Paris,
Yeah, in Paris. And then we met in Japan and then in Korea.
Maybe 2013, I think.
Yeah, something like that. And we met through another French guy who lived in Korea, known as a producer called SONS. I met many times now with Curtis because he came several times to Tokyo to dig records. Through diggers, I met him in some unexpected places, really get his fingers all dusty. He even stayed at my place, and I remember selling
the first time, I think.
A few records.
The first time we met again after Paris, I was already sleeping with you, man.
Yeah. And so Curtis has been working in the record industry in Korea for already like quite a few years now, working for big groups and also for small indie shops. He's actually co-founded a record shop called Clique Records.
Kind of, I'll explain later, but I didn't co-found it. Antoine, the guy that was the partner, founded it first.
Yeah.
And run it for like a year.
Yeah.
And after, I joined.
Okay. And then you founded your own shop with fellow partners called Mosaic.
Alone.
Oh, alone.
Yeah, sold my shop. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So Mosaic Records, and you're running it now, and that's the shop we'll be introducing today. So thank you very much for taking the time, and really looking forward to hearing more about the music scene and vinyl scene in Korea.
Thanks for inviting.
Good to have you. So can you introduce a little bit Mosaic Records and also your background? I already explained a little bit, but maybe you can give us more details.
I started I came in Korea. There's not much of like a scene. Wouldn't say even it was underground. There was really no scene at all. There was nobody really playing records. Nobody really looking for the kind of records I was looking for at the time. We started parties here and there, just DJing mostly, and then through DJing met people, and that's where I had to meet Antoine, a guy that started Clique Records. I used to just participate as a seller, and because I was since I arrived in Korea, I always went all around like in the country and tried to find records, try to find interesting stuff. And I just joined the pop-ups and used to sell like second-hand records. Antoine would sell most of the imports he was getting from Europe, and he did it for like about a year. And after that, asked me if I was down to maybe partner with him, team up, and take care of the second-hand records, and he will take care of the imports. That's how Clique Records started. And we did that for quite a while. I think we started in 2015 or 14. Yeah, we did that for a while. I think it was quite influential also in Korea. There was a lot of people that kind of joined and gathered through that space. A lot of parties and a lot of foreign DJs we invited as well. A lot of records coming through. I think it was really good times, and did that for the time it lasted. And last 2019 December, we decided to maybe kind of like split. I wanted to be more focused and have like maybe a little larger space and something I could run like fully the way I wanted to run it. So that's how I started Mosaic. So I was just last year in May, actually.
And how has it been going so far?
It's been going extremely well. Yeah, really, really amazing support. We have a lot of people coming, really a lot. And I think the scene in Korea is getting really big. A lot of young people into records and like music, just trying to find interesting music. I think we're on the right time, and there's not so much shops that propose interesting music, and almost no shop are like proposing secondhand in a kind of like regular way.
Yeah.
But we have like pretty large arrivals every week, so everybody comes every Sunday on the arrival day. Everybody just waits outside and like come in and like fight for records. It's pretty fun. It's good.
Oh, cool. Reminds me of Japan.
It's really small scale compared to Japan, I guess, but it's still really solid. And for us, it's quite meaningful. It's good. Yeah,
that's cool.
Good.
What kind of music sells best at Mosaic?
So what sells best, I would say, is rare groove, jazz, and a lot of like Korean rare groove.
Okay. So
Yeah,
you were.
anything that is like obscure Korean funk, soul,
Mhm.
all of this sells like in a minute. Anything that is like just good rare groove, good US rare groove, and like obscure records also. People are interested in like what they can't really get. And jazz records kind of crazy. How many young people are into jazz?
I want to talk a little bit more about the Korean rare groove scene, because I know you've been a big player in excavating the old Korean records in Korea and putting them under the spotlight again. You've undercovered a lot of forgotten Korean records and did some reissues as well, I know.
Yeah.
What was the time when you realized that there was a Korean scene for rare groove and old stuff like 70s or 80s stuff? Because I mean, it's not something that went out of Korea in the past. Like for Japan, for instance, I mean, we already had a few hints through bands like YMO, Ryuichi Sakamoto, and other Japanese artists who made it abroad. But for Korea, I don't recall that there was artists during the 70s or 80s that has like global success. So what was the time when you realized that there was a scene to be dug?
That's the thing, is like, as you said, Korea is a really odd environment also for like a record shop. For one reason, is it's not a source country. Japan is a source country, US, the UK, France in some way, and like countries that actually produced in large quantities a lot of like popular music and a lot of underground music and a lot of, like in a very diverse way. But Korea isn't at all. Korea is mostly restricted to only Korean music, and a few licensing started really late, because until the 80s, mid 80s, during the president John was very blocked. They would not allow like licensing of foreign music, and even if he had to come in, he had to be licensed anyway. So that would be quite.
There was like a government censorship.
Yeah, really strong censorship. It started because of Park Chung-hee. He was a dictator. He reigned for a while, and that guy completely destructed the musical spirit of Korea pretty much. I'll explain later when I introduce some records. It made things very difficult to come in and also come out. At the end of the day, very little inspiration coming in, very little freedom to express it, even though it comes in. I mean, there's little people that were still listening to the American radio back then, and like people were influenced and started doing stuff like, you probably know Shin I was doing a lot of like psych stuff. He's probably the most famous dude from Korea to have done things like this. So you had people doing it, but it was very a small number, and it never came out, so the market was not distributed abroad. So it really doesn't help. But if you're in Korea, it's your environment. When you go look for records, like 90% of it is Korean records. So if you ain't no shit about it, it's not gonna be fun at all. Really not. So I don't think it was very much of a special kind of like thought I had. It's just I like looking for music, and if I'm not really comfortable with my environment, then I'll have to probably learn a bit about it. So there's lots of like basic informations you can get at first. So you get the first like soul singers like Kim Chuja or like Kim Jong-mi, or like all the like psych stuff. You start looking for it. This is quite available online. Like anybody can really do it. And then once you get into there, you start going through one to another and another. You go from one producer to another, and then the guitarist of that band was also like the friend of the drummer or whatever, and they did another band, and then they did some instrumental records through it, and then you go through it, and it makes things going little by little.
And also, it's very poorly documented on the internet, like on Discogs, for instance.
Even in Korean, there's almost no information. So you'll have the basic information like the cover image, the name, titles, and everything, but nothing else. No audio, no available information on the record.
It really reminds me of the situation of Japan, like about 10 years ago, when actually I started to try to put my personal collection in Discogs. More than half of the Japanese records that I had were not on Discogs, and now a lot of Japanese records are on Discogs. There are still a very few, like a very tiny part that is not on Discogs, but I have to say now even like super obscure Japanese records are on Discogs somehow, because the Japanese scene has come under the spotlight. But Korea is kind of going through this process right now, and maybe in 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, there will be a lot of Korean references on the internet.
But I don't think you'll ever take that scale for one reason is Japan is extremely well organized in terms of the record industry is very organized. So you have a lot of people making these records move constantly. They have a really nice recycling, record recycling industry behind us. So people sell also pretty easy. They are not holding that much. I mean, it looks like, because otherwise you never get quantities like this coming in the market. And this is the main problem in Korea. It's like a lot of the good records were banned during that area. The quantities are extremely small.
Yeah.
And most of them, they come from like radio station stocks or like really few tiny collections. So it's gonna be in the hands of people that have these records. Are they really gonna share it, or are they just gonna keep it and not reveal any of the music for it? But from my personal experience, meeting tons of like Korean collectioners and like freaks, I can tell you, there's very little chance that we get to see it all. Because a lot of them, they hold on it, man, like until they'll die. You'll never see the end of it.
Well, we're counting on you to get them when they pass.
I'll do my best to at least like reveal some of the interesting stuff I found. But
back to your shop. Do you guys sell online as well? Do you have an online shop, or you?
We have like a little Discogs page, but we don't sell really a lot of like stocks that we get at the shop, but mostly stuff that are kind of like in demand and people are looking for. Why? Because since the coronavirus, there's lots of postage. It really affected the prices of postage. So it's a pain in the ass, to be fair. I think we would have been able to sell quite a lot of, because we have really nice stock of Nigerian records and even like local stuff. I think we could have sold quite a lot, but I mean, price-wise, it's not really even worth it for us to put it on. So we only have like quite expensive records.
But let's say coronavirus ends tomorrow. Is developing the business online something you want to do with Mosaic? Yeah,
sure. We also have a website that is already done.
Yeah,
we only need to just upload the records. We've been really busy just putting records at the shop right now. So I'm looking for an extra employee to be taking care of it.
One question about your shop, because you were mentioning the fact that there are not many records in Korea besides Korean records. How do you get the stock for your shop? Do you make like some travels abroad, and if so, where do you travel most to go and buy records?
I do not travel.
Oh, you don't?
And I could not travel anywhere since I opened the shop because of Corona anyway.
Yeah.
But I mostly don't travel. Why? Because I know of a lot of record dealers that travel, but traveling is cool if you really have an extended period of time that you can spend in a place where you know absolutely for sure that you will find back your money.
Yeah.
Or it's probably available for some people that can also sell these records at high prices, of like a currency exchange that is favorable. But for us, the one is weak. And what people can pay also for record, the consumption is not as like crazy as you would have in the middle of London, for example. So for us, it's a bit different. So we have people that send us stuff that are like ready, like getting stocks. So we buy over stocks, collections, and I travel a lot also locally. Korea was a really good place for foreign imports, like back late 90s, early 2000. That was really interesting. A lot of interesting US stocks. I've even found like sometimes like UK stocks, like crazy UK stocks. That was, I think, 3 years ago. I got a call from a friend, and so there was a warehouse that was just right in the mountain of a city called Daegu, and the guy is basically specialized in audio imports.
Oh, cool.
And back then he imported from like a BBC warehouse a container full of cameras, audio, a lot of shit that the guy, and oh man, that was hilarious. He even imported a Jaguar, a car.
What the fuck?
That was insane. But the Jaguar, he tried to sell it to me. That was pretty fun. So the Jaguar, man, had no engine, no motor, no engine. So the guy was like, I'm gonna give you that vintage Jaguar for 10 grand. And man, the Jaguar was looking neat. It was really looking good.
But how would you drive it back to the
that's what I'm saying. That was before I knew. So we raised up the fucking shit in the front of the car. I don't know how you say it in English.
Yeah.
Raised it up. Like, what the fuck? It's a big hole, man. There's no engine. That was hilarious. But the Jaguar did look good.
Oh,
So
okay.
he said, yeah, after like he tried to negotiate, he said you would fix that up with an engine for if I paid an extra 5,000.
Oh, okay.
I gave up the Jaguar, but I took the records.
Yeah.
But man, the records he had
Yeah.
were like I don't know where the fuck he got them, but they were stocks from a distribution company in the UK. I'm sure. Why? Because it's mostly UK stocks.
Yeah.
It was like the same ref, but like really fucking sick records. It was mostly house and techno.
Oh,
It was mostly
cool.
club records, or pretty much only club records. Some Stanley Cole, like a really fucking good Stanley Cole album. Some like US Rare Groove also. The same ref, sealed, and like quantities like this, man.
Yeah.
You had like 50, 60 of the same ref.
Yeah.
Really good stuff, like really, really good. So I can tell you that all my friends had the Stanley Cole record for their birthday, like on that year. Everybody had the Stanley Cole record. That's pretty cool. Yeah, man. About that stock, I think that was a really good story.
Cool.
A really fun
So
story,
you have a lot of different ways to get stock from.
Yeah, we always get records anyway. There's always more solutions than problems.
So that's it for your introduction and the shop introduction. So we can move on to the records you've selected for us today. Which one is the first one you would like to introduce?
That's the record. Joong.
Okay, yeah.
So it really doesn't look that good based on the cover.
It looks it's from the 60s or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's from the late 60s, 67. It's an extremely rare record, really, really, really freaking rare. So you can see back then, here you have the band lineup.
Yeah.
Shin back then started a band called Shin and the Donkeys.
Okay.
As a very short-lived band. He had quite a few bands in the 60s. So the main one is called the Ad 4. That was the main band he had, mostly like garagey rock sound. That was for the bands he actually released albums with. He did add some others that used to be a player for the American Army. Clubs like that were only for like American soldiers.
Yeah.
That's also why these musicians are really problems making a career here, because back then their music was only for these American soldiers. So very little audience, a Korean audience. And some of the few clubs that would do the same kind of music for Koreans also, there were, but not that many, because the government really didn't like that kind of music. I really didn't like it and tried to, how can I say, make it look like pretty bad.
It's very interesting because the role of American bass in the development of music in Asia is really, really important. Like
exactly.
When I talk to a few people in Japan, they always mention the US bass's influence in bringing like instrument, music styles, some kind of culture, etc. to Japan and help it spread in Japan. And that's how like people getting to play together and exchange, etc. And that's how partly some of the Japanese music scene developed so much. And the funny thing is, even though like right after the World War II, there was also US bases in Korea, it seems that Korea didn't experience the same development in terms of music scene as Japan, even though they also had like US bases, but it seems the government didn't appreciate it in the same way. And probably maybe from what you seem to say, the Korean government tried to kind of like shut it down.
In Korea, like nobody really wanted that war, and the split of the country was a bit painful, I would say.
Yeah.
So the American army coming in and taking base and everything wasn't like seen that bad, because a lot of people, particularly in the areas where the base were, you would get like economical benefits, because they would spend money and it will make the area survive pretty well. But a lot of people also didn't like this. Didn't like much of this Americanized kind of like thing. Back then also there's quite a lot of drugs, which is very different from now. But back then there was quite a lot of drugs, and that kind of music was considered as being a bit off path.
To help like spread drugs and all that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
so
it was true in a way, because even in Europe or in the States, like during the 60s and 70s, like
in
it's
some way, yeah.
well known that a lot of bands were doing drugs, like the Beatles.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of ends a bit of the creativity, I would say.
Yeah, exactly.
That's probably what a lot of things that changed definitely a lot of the musical scape. But here in Korea, as you said before, the government really didn't help the propagation of that kind of music. And really, I mean, try to stop it anyway, because all these records were banned for any reason.
No.
So they were, some of them were called like outrageous. Some of them were called like disrespectful, or like Park Chung-hee, also that dictator, made a law saying that the changbop is like the arrangement style, the composition style.
Okay.
Sound either a bit psychedelic or whatever, is illegal.
Wow.
Is anti-government. Because back then it's like they
extreme.
want the people to work hard and like wake up early, work, go to the factory, work, and not really have fun, enjoy, and like drug and shit. And also what I've heard from all the friends of mine that have been collecting records for a while, not sure it's 100% true, but what they've been saying is so Park Chung-hee's son was quite liking the marijuana.
Okay.
So that created some issues, family issues that actually spread out to the music scene, because early 70s they cut off all the musicians that were in a sort of like psychedelic way, cut them off all, so they could not either go on TV, do representations, they could not under their name really produce records, or if they did, cut off straight away, or like unpatriotical like lyrics, or like lyrics that make everybody fucked up, or like whatever, like they will find reasons anytime. So all these records, like this one, and like some of them I will introduce and explain here, they're banned and they could not really see place in the market. That's why it's extremely rare. Yeah, very, 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 very difficult to
I
find.
see. So will you play one of the track for us?
So yeah, the track I'll play is called Konik. It's like petal, means like the flowers petal. Okay. And it's a really beautiful track. It's quite really psyched out. Female vocals. I really love the record. It took me ages to find a copy. And I'm gonna play that record's worth a few $1,000 on that $50 shitty Vestax indie tracks. I really don't like doing it, but for the show, I'll do it.
Thank you.
Just for the show.
꽃잎이 피고 또 질 때면 그날이 또다시 생각나 못 견디겠네. 서로가 말도 하지 않고 나는 돌아져서 그대로 와버렸네. 그래 왜 날 잡지 않고 그대로 왜 가버렸나. 꽃잎 보면 생각하네. 왜 그렇게 헤어졌나. 꽃잎이 피고 또 질 때면 그날이 또다시 생각나 못 견디겠네. 서로가 말도 하지 않고 나는 돌아져서 그대로 와버렸네. 꽃잎
I see. Yeah, it's very, very 60s. I've listened to a lot of like Japanese 60s records, and I think there's really like a 60s Asian vibe. Like in Japan, there is this genre called Kaio Kyoku. I think it's very, very, very close to the vibe that you just played, and very interesting, the similarities.
There's lots of really good like Japanese 60s, 70s, like folk rock, psych, and like a lot of like even avant-gardist vibes on some of them. It's really broad as well. There's lots of private pressings, so it's really interesting. I'm really interested in the Japanese side of it as well. But I got that the 60s. Actually, I got one right here. A 60s Japanese kind of folk stuff. I don't know if you know this.
No, I don't.
Oh, it's really cool.
It's nice.
I had it for ages, but I kind of forgot about it.
Back to the record you just played. You mentioned sorry, I'm very bad with Korean names, but you mentioned an artist name. Is it a man or a woman?
So the singer is a woman. It's called Jung.
Okay.
So Jung was a part member of what we used to call what they used to call the Shinjunyeon Sadan. Shinjunyeon Sadan is the Shinjunyeon's kind of troop, basically.
Okay.
So he's like with the American army, he's got a bit of a reputation for being good at what he does, and particularly like being like a sort of like guitar freak.
Okay.
He got really recognized for it.
A guitar player.
Exactly. So he had the first hit with the Pearl Sisters in the 60s as well. And with this hit, like he got really famous. I think he got banned later, but he was on the market for a while and got massive hit in radio stations and stuff. So a lot of singers from all around the country started to go see him and be like, oh, I want to be part of it, and I want you to produce an album for me and stuff. So that's how he picked up just a few and did some albums with like different bands he used to have. And and yeah, he made his career pretty much, his early careers and early days that way. But sadly, most of it got banned like pretty fast. His main names like Kim Jong-mi, Kim Chuja, they were really not that well seen. Like what people here they used to listen to is pongchak. Pongchak is what they call trot. Basically, it's like trot music. It's a derivative of like American foxtrot in a kind of like Koreanish way. And oh man, you don't want to listen to this. Basically, the dilemma in Korean music is this. 60s, 70s, you get still a bit of psych, super rare and expensive because they got banned. And after what they call Demacho Sakon, so the president, that son had the issue, so he started banning everybody from making music and releasing records. At that time, all the band session players that used to be pretty good were not able to do music anymore, or they had to either change names or not really write their names on the record, credit them anymore. But you had people that used to play in clubs started to be the guys that will play for records. They were like club players, but they started to be like playing for making records. So that's when you had these guys that were playing pongchak, like trot in club bands, started to be the backup bands for like singers. That's where the music level dropped from like guys that had like some like folky inspirations and psyche feelings to guys that were just like the hotel band or like that are like playing some sort of like 60s what they call trot. I don't know how to explain, but it just sounds bad. I don't want to listen to it anyway.
All right, so let's move to the second records. What is it?
So second is, so we had like the psych vibe, and now I'm gonna move to the holy grail of like Korean folk, and I really fucking love this record.
You showed it to me once already in the past when I came to Korea.
That's possible.
I think you told me about this one because I remember the cover when you sent me the list.
It looks like pretty strange as well. That little egg here with
the duckling.
They used to do really cool like designs in the 70s in Korea. You had guys drawing. They used to do their own drawings for cover and albums. They were talented. You could feel there was like a sort of artistry, a sort of like arty vibes back then. And it's quite fun. So these guys are like quite special because they are all really low key. They were not big acts back in the days.
Mhm.
So you had guys like Kim Tae-gon, for example, that got a lot bigger later for doing kind of like traditional fusion folk music. He released an album actually in Japan. I don't think it's that rare in Japan. I see it quite often popping up. It's pretty cool. It's a good album.
Okay.
And he released his own album later as well, but they all come from a little club that used to be called Nashville. That was like yeah, it sounds really American.
Yeah.
It feels like you're gonna listen to country music, but no, it's not. That was like most small like concert venues back then had like Americanish names.
Yeah. Of
Like
course.
Texas, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
as again, a lot of them were probably aiming to have a foreign crowd. A lot of like regular like Korean people back then, they were not really going to clubs. They would go to places to drink, places to listen to music, but like a club where you dance and stuff. That's quite different.
Much. Yeah.
And concert venues were probably aiming first to these foreign crowd, to the American army, but early 70s, you had a lot of students, Korean students that were going there.
Okay.
A lot of Korean students and young people. These young people were like politically involved, and they were also very eager to do stuff, and like artists, kind of like there was an arty vibe to it. And this group of guys that called them 우리들, so like we,
Okay.
they were just guys that were performing at that venue. So you have tracks from different guys. Like you have some names that are pretty famous. I'll say Kim Tae-gon. You have Bang Hee-kyung. Bang Hee-kyung was a really young female folk singer.
Okay.
She has one album separately that's extremely rare and very, very expensive as well. So she has one track in there. There's like quite a few guys and some really known dudes that were only.
So it's like a compilation of the live house kind of.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
can take it like this. What make it really strange, back then there was nothing that we can call private pressings. In Korea, neither. Nobody ever mentioned to private pressings. So there is private pressings in Korea, but why people do not mention it? For distribution systems, recording and manufacturing. This was held by like only a few companies like Sorabor, later, Jigu, Universal. Only these big companies had the possibility to manufacture records, or you would have the illegal way. Illegal way is like you would cut it through like what they used to call like people that were doing bekpan. Bekpan is like foreign record. They will just rip the vinyl, and they will. It was probably done another way back then. It was not like a digital rip at all.
Yeah.
And they will reproduce a really cheap and shit pressing of it. And I would have like a really shit like black and white sleeve or like. Anyway, you could go to these pressing plants and do it.
Yeah.
So some of really scarce, but sometimes you see some current records that look like these big pants. Again, where they really press there or not, mystery.
Yeah.
But this one has the Universal logo. Why? Because they use the Universal Studios and the manufacturing.
Okay.
But this was financed by the house singers that went together, made this record possible, and this was not distributed. That's the most
so
important
like it
thing.
was given hand to hand.
It was only concerts, university concerts, and what we call 문구점. 문구점 is like a bit of like the office depot, but like neighborhood style office depot, and like you would buy. Back in the days, you had tons of this stuff. You still have a bit.
Yeah.
Near the universities, you'll buy your books, you'll buy your like little notes, board, like a pencil and shit like that. And from what I know is that they used to sell them only in these spots near the university and at concerts. 500 copies only.
Shit. And probably a lot of them are like lost or destroyed or
Man, early 2000, late 90s.
Yeah.
Or even through the 80s, there's a lot of records that were thrown away in Korea.
Yeah.
So much records that were thrown to trash.
Well, can you play one of the track for us so we can,
So that track there is a reissue also of this record. There's 2 or 3 reissues of it. If you really want to just listen to the music, you can get a reissue pretty cheap.
Okay.
The track is called 8번, number 8. Back then, they didn't even bother giving a name to the track.
Yeah.
They just call it that way. It's really some deep acoustic folk, good stuff.
아야 우지마라 하얀 저 별도 날이 새면은 떨어지는 것을 아야 우지마라 붉은 저 꽃도 비가 오면은 떨어지는 것을 별을 헤면서 해를 따라서 강을 건너고 산을 넘으면 그랜 노란 매꽃 둥근 모닥불이 우리를 반기며 피고 있겠지. 아야 눈을 떠라 뽀얀 안개 속에 작은 꽃섬이 저기 보이잖니. 아야 눈을 떠라 물새 소리 맑은 파란 강물이 저기 보이잖니. 별을 헤면서 해를 따라서 강을 건너고 산을 넘으면 들엔 노란 매꽃 둥근 모닥불이 우리를.
Yeah, it's very, as you described it before playing, it's a very nice acoustic folk track. It's a very simple yet very beautiful track.
Again, it's like, I think I had that conversation with you back then. It's like, you get a bit obsessed, to be really honest. When you live in an environment, you want to find everything, you know. And sometimes something that, if it was maybe from a different country or something that was completely different, maybe I'll just go pass through it and I'll feel nothing.
Yeah.
But if it's from your environment and it's like you feel close to it, you know.
It's like when you get into a genre, like when you start digging into something, you kind of get a focus on that thing, and then you ignore everything else. It's not that the rest suck or the rest is shit. It's just that your focus is on something, and you decide to dedicate your energy and time to dig and excavate a genre that hasn't been dug so much yet. Like a lot of Japanese music, I was really into that, and now that as I was saying, I see that there is a lot of stuff now on the internet, on Discogs and all that. I feel like there is less. The interest that I had to like discover things has kind of moved on, because now things have been discovered in a way, you know, like it's online, it's available. So I'm happy that everyone is able to listen to it and find them on internet. But for me, there is less appeal because there is less, there is a smaller discovery factor. And for you in Korea, I think it's the fact that there is still this discovery factor is really important, and it's something that is really thrilling. It's very exciting, I think.
It is, but it's a very tight market. The problem is like the big money started getting really involved in the like rare Korean records. It's gonna be hard maybe to understand for a lot of people that have shops abroad, but in Korea we are in a state of like it's uncontrollable. You get records that used to be $50 going for 1,000.
Oh wow!
And man, it's like not one or two. It's like so many. It's a speculative market, really speculative. So it gets the fun. It got kind of the fun out recently a bit.
I understand. I mean, but I think that's where like music on vinyl is heading, because it's something that tends to disappear with time. You know, we're talking about like kind of like limited work of art. You know, when you have a pressing that only exists on vinyl and that has been made 500 copies, probably maybe like 40 years ago, and now there is maybe only 50 or 100 copies available or less.
Yeah.
It's like, of course it's going to be expensive. What do you
Sure.
expect if the
Yeah.
music is good, or if it's an artist that did some other famous stuff afterwards and some people are after his older stuff, then yeah, it's going to get expensive. And it's for music on vinyl, I think it can only go up. If the music is good, it can only go up, because more
The
and more
consumption
people
got
will
to a
want
level
the
where, yeah,
same item.
it's fun. It's fun, but it's also kind of special.
Yeah, it's sometimes it can be
Oh
frustrating.
man, you would see stuff here. It's it's kind of crazy. If you have one asshole buying online something
Yeah.
that's worth $10 in the street, 500, tomorrow the price is 500.
Oh yeah,
Everywhere.
yeah. Well, yeah, I think
It's like it's kind of
yeah.
funny. That's funny, but it's like
That's
sometimes
something that
it's like
happens a lot with the very underground music, is that people don't know how to price those records, because
there's no real price.
they've never been sold before. So nobody
Exactly.
has a reference to tell, okay, this record
Exactly.
is that much, or that record is that much. So and because there has been this whole like Japanese music wave for the past like 5 years, and some prices have gone crazy, now people think, oh, it's an old record from Asia, so it has to be expensive, so I'm going to put it for $100, $200, $300. And
Yeah, exactly.
that's kind of like how people set the price nowadays. I guess that's the trend. That's what it is. But still, the music is good. So and what about this record? Is it a record that you have for sale at your shop, the original copy, or no? It's also from your personal collection.
I wish one day I can offer a copy for sale at the shop.
Yeah.
But to be honest, it's too rare, too expensive, and
Yeah.
I mean I prefer to keep it in the archive or put it on YouTube and get people to listen to it with the original sound files. But I've sold a lot. I've sold. That's even how we started the
yeah, because
the shop.
if I remember correctly, you brought a copy when you came to Tokyo to do a pop-up at Lighthouse Records.
Maybe for DJing or
or maybe for DJing. Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of these kind of records I had in my personal collection that I sold to make the shop. Actually,
Yeah.
to be really honest, I kind of paid out my interior fees. It's heartbreaking sometimes when you sell stuff like this, because
Yeah.
but you ain't gonna see one in
a
maybe
long
your
time.
life.
Yeah. So maybe we can move to the third record. What did you pick for the third record?
This is the OST of a movie. It's called 별들의 고향. I think the English name is Hometown Hero.
When was this movie made?
I think the first volume of it is mid-70s. So the movie must have been out maybe 73. From that movie, then you had 3 soundtracks came out of it, and these 3 are super important, I think, in Korean music history. The first one is a masterpiece of like Korean psych prog, weirdo experimental. If you look for it on Discogs, it's quite available on Discogs. It's not extremely easy to find record. Anybody that looked for Korean groove knows that record. It's quite groovy, it's druggy, it's good, really psyched out. Very, very nice soundtrack. The second one is a bit more folky, it's less interest, I think. And the third one, this
one, yeah,
nice woman on
I like the cover.
Is amazing. Why? Because it's still the same team. So the team was called 동방의 It's like the Eastern Lights. That's what it would mean.
Okay.
And that group had quite a few key members. 강근식, 조원익, and like I think 이준호 also was part of it. Yeah, like 이장희 was a really famous folk singer. 조원익, for example, I think he's the older brother, if I'm not making mistakes, of Jo Dong-ik, that later made a lot of like fusion and like sort of like city pop-ish kind of vibes. But he was quite a pioneer in the sort of proggy sound. These guys used to listen a lot of like Pink Floyd, and this record is mostly done by Kang Gun-sik, which was the session guitarist, bassist. He used to do quite a lot of like multi-instrumentalist. He's super talented. Anything that guy touched was really, really nice. And on this particular third volume of the soundtrack, he did what I think is the first Korean like ambient track. There is some like weirdo electronic stuff, but way before, but like something that is arranged, you know, like
Yeah.
properly arranged.
Okay.
I think that's the first one.
Can you play the track for us? Because I'm really into ambient music and I'm really curious about
This
one
really
of the
good.
first Korean ambient track.
It's quite a known record for other reasons. People like drum breaks. They like
Yeah.
this record, but I don't really care much about drum breaks. So that's my cut. Here we go. It's called 연등 행열.
Really nice ambient track.
Back then, it was really difficult to express yourself musically.
Yeah.
So I was thinking maybe they were taking advantage of this being like a OST to go further and really do what they really wanted to do.
Yeah.
And if you listen to the soundtrack, the volume 1 and that one, the volume 3, man, overall the volume 1 is the best.
Oh yeah.
Volume 1 is fucking amazing. But this one, if you're into electronic music, you'll probably like this.
So this volume is more on the ambient electronic side.
Not every track, but there's another really sick cosmic like crowd rock track.
Interesting.
But recently it got really expensive as well.
So you say it's been produced by a band. It's not like one producer with a synthesizer and like multi.
So basically, that project was taken over by that band. They're all the same group. So you see some of the tracks, some of the guys participate, some others they don't.
Yeah.
The one we listen to is Gangenshik only. So it's like only synth and that's all.
Really,
but if you listen to other works he did, there's lots of interesting stuff and it's really cool. But you never get to that level of deepness that he had on that OSTs.
I mean, movie soundtrack, it's a very interesting domain to dig, because especially for ambient and like new age stuff, because I think it's really a field where composers were able to experiment with different things, and especially because there is an image as a support, they have some inspiration to take from, you know, and so you can really sometimes associate the images with the music, and it's kind of like a spiritual trip. That's very interesting. Yeah, I've found crazy tracks, like super nice ambient tracks on soundtrack, and some of the composers I really like have also done some like a soundtrack work, and I think
Yeah.
they do enjoy it. It's a particular work, but it's very interesting.
In Japan, yeah, you have tons of good stuff like this as well.
Oh yeah, a lot.
But it's a bit sad somehow because it makes you feel like they were able to do that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's only
Yeah.
one the only stuff we get.
Yeah,
is only
exactly.
this.
Why not?
You're like, what? It's like, why?
Yeah.
Why? Sometimes you get some guys, they get like the light, like
Yeah,
they go super far and like super sick.
yeah.
But then the problem is like the other
Just one
albums they
track.
release is mostly like remakes of their other tracks that are not that far off,
Yeah.
So it's a bit sad.
What about this this album? Was it also under the government scrutiny? Was it censored, or at
No.
that time was it
The
more
first
free?
volume one, yeah. The volume one was censored. Why? Because the cover was like what they consider pornographic. Because I think you see like a part of the ass of the girl on the back
Okay.
of the cover, and on the front they're like kissing each other. So
Yeah. Okay.
it's a fairly easy to find record. Even the first pressing is quite easy to find. The third volume is maybe the hardest to get. It used to be very cheap. I had 3 copies.
Oh, do you have a copy for sale at the shop right now?
The last one that was for sale is gone.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, it's the kind of stuff. Honestly, is like it's not even like customers. It's mostly like just guys that have shops.
For all the 3 records you have introduced so far, it's mostly like a old Korean music from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And I think from abroad, the image that people have from Korean music is the modern pop, like K-pop, because that's what like being global right now. So maybe people don't have the image that Korean people like music other than K-pop. But do you, is there a crowd? Do you have a Korean local customer who come to your shop and ask you for those obscure artists? And,
Oh man, for my the Korean records, I only sell to Korean people. It's 100% Koreans, and we do also wholesale. We get stocks and like Korean collections from people here and there, and we do wholesale to shops, Korean shops also.
Okay.
So we've been really active in the Korean Korean scene. A lot of the online sellers and some shops in the market get Korean records from us.
The
Quite
Korean
volume.
people who come and buy those records from you, is it mostly old people who look for records
It's a
they
mix.
had when they were young,
Oh.
or young people discovering like old Korean music?
Really everything. But our crowd in the shop is mostly like people in their 30s, I would say. Anything I get that is complicated to get, man, they are like queuing. It's a different kind of like more the Korean expensive and premium stocks. We have like customers that are a bit more aged, more like in their 50s, 60s. But man, they would crazy for records. It's really difficult to find. So there's always ways, but these guys, busy. They're busy. They do their stuff. They work and stuff.
All right, so maybe we can move to the 4th record.
Next one is Pak Dong-ryul.
Oh yeah, I've seen the cover of this one.
So I came with a few copies when I did the Korean records pop up in Japan.
I think it sold
Yeah.
because I was interested in it, but I didn't. When I came, I think it was already all gone.
Yeah, it went like really fast.
Yeah.
I basically met the guy, so I'm quite really friendly with him, and he runs a camping right now. He's like running a camping in the countryside.
Okay.
He's a really fun guy, and he had dead stocks because this was not properly like distributed. 500 copies only. He used to work for the company himself, so Warner. So he knows really well how this was handled. And this was basically a record he released because the guy in charge, the Warner, saw him working there for ages. That was a bit of his gift for being a good employee.
Oh, nice.
And it was not really sold so hardly. And so he was a producer there. He was just making music, basically.
Okay.
Not really under his name. His record is really good, deep electronics. And I really love it. I have that stocks. So if you guys interested to get copies.
Around what year was it produced?
That was 92. And that guy has a crazy story. Why? Because he had a band back then also for the American Army when he was really young. And then made his first album, this right here, is extremely rare. Why? Because it was banned for being anti-government.
Okay.
The guy didn't know he was banned. and thought the album was out. And he realized he got banned 15 years later when he went to a convention and met his ex-boss that said, "Oh, but we never released your album. There are only like 50 radio copies that went out, but we had to destruct it." So I was really loyal, but he was really unlucky, sadly. But he was a really talented guy. That's why I'm really happy to introduce this. I tried to reissue it for copyright issues. We are going through some difficult times. I'm working on it still.
So do you still have dead stock copies, or
We
you
have dead
sold
stock,
everything?
very little left. We share profits with him.
Keep me one copy. Okay,
You should
play.
play it.
Yeah.
It's quite a long intro. It involves like some traditional instruments. You have one really important guy in traditional music called Wonil. That also participated.
But you said it's from '92.
Yeah.
It's funny because it sounds like it's older than '92. It doesn't sound like '92-ish. It sounds like more like early '80s or.
Most of the Korean like electronic stuff, like these people also really want the Yeonsuk one stuff or like that kind of records. It's all from the golden era of like Korean ambient electronic music.
Yeah.
Golden era is only like a handful of records, but anyway, 88, 92. That's where I have my
the time frame.
Korean like full electronic records.
I see.
The last one I want to introduce, that's one of my top favorite found ever. Really fucking rare. And it's undocumented there's nothing. It's a black hole.
Where did you find this record? Do you remember?
Yeah, that was really random. Actually, the story is quite fun because I've seen
show it to us first so we see which record we're talking about. Natural music. Okay.
Yeah. I've seen this record in the market and places I go like a few times, but man, the thing is like this record got ignored, I think, because it looks like I think it's George Winston or like that kind of like Windham Hill. Vibes, New Age records.
Yeah.
It looks so similar. So a lot of Korean dealers and like people around, they don't even look at it because they think it's like a license, a Windham Hill license.
Yeah.
So I think it got ignored a lot for it. Though it's really rare. I can tell I don't see this really much. I go through a lot of quantities, but still findable for one reason. there's no information. Nobody knows, and it's worth shit maybe
Yeah.
if you find it,
Yeah.
because nobody knows.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
And also another weird stuff is I think the guy had an alias. It's not his real name.
Okay.
I'm not sure 100% obviously because it could be it's a Korean name,
Yeah.
but it's only written in English, which is the first mistake he made because nobody's gonna even like remember it. Called the Moon Insun project.
Oh, that's
But the
his
name
name.
is kind of fun as well. Moon in Sun. It's quite fun as well. Obviously in English there's no information, but there's no information in Korean as well. It's really hard to trace anything. Most of the biggest seller like online or whatever barely had any copy for sale ever. So just to tell you, because they pretty much would have like the whole, not everything, but a lot of it. And man, the music is exceptional. I've been looking for that guy since I found that record. I've had it for like maybe about 3 years now. And impossible to find informations. Impossible. So I tried. There's the Jigu logo on it.
Yeah.
Because it was manufactured and distributed by Jigu. They have no information there. They have no registration of that record.
Jigu is a big label it's a major label in Korea.
It's a private pressing. Why? Because that guy made a label called Mind Music. It's a pretty cool name as well. He made that label and released one record. This is it. And after, he was manufactured by Jigu, distributed, I'm pretty sure, but the distribution didn't look like turning so well. Back then, I know that they used to recycle the plastic and everything. So
they probably melted down and recycled it.
There's a lot of rumors actually that next to some of the pressing plants, there were guys trying to get away records before they would get melted. Rumors, not sure it's true, but that's quite fun to hear. Always,
it's probably true.
We always have shit rumors like this. Great fun. Yeah. Here again, all the names are written in English. So the producer is called E.S. Lee. Who the fuck is E.S. Lee? I have no clue. Again, like, in Japan, there was a lot of theme or like kind of like one-time project that were themes for like an event or something.
Yeah.
I think it's very similar. It's called New Age Collection.
Okay.
It's like kind of like a New Age soundscape they wanted to reproduce and probably wanted to play with it, but the New Age boom really didn't take well. But the music really takes with me. It's not like your basic New Age. It sounds more like electronic fusion, very ECM influenced. You have some tracks that really make me think of even Suicide. Spanish guy got reissued. It's quite popular. I've only ever found 3 copies also of this one. I have 2 for me and one that I gave to one of my best mates, Martin Zero. Shout out to Martin if he's looking at us. And you probably met as well.
Okay, so can you play the track for us? I think this is my favorite track of all the tracks you've played today. It's
Man, I really struggle to choose the track because there is like 6 or 7 really solid cuts on this. Most records you find usually it's like max 3 tracks.
Yeah.
But this is like all the way, no rubbish. It's really good. I really hope I can find a copy for the shop soon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested if you find one.
I want to keep one sealed for if we have to remaster it one day from a record.
Yeah.
I want to have one for myself to play, to just listen to. And I really hope one day I can get one for the shop. That would be cool, I think.
Well, Curtis, that's the end for today. Thank you so much for all
I'm too talkative, man.
and for all the backstories and all the anecdotes and the details. So thank you very much. Guys, if you have the possibility to travel to Korea and Seoul, please visit Mosaic Records and say hi to Curtis for me. I'll go there myself when we're able to travel a little bit more freely. Check their website and go to their shop because I'm sure there are a lot of great records in there. I can trust Curtis for that. Thank you very much,
guys.
Curtis.
Thanks a lot.
See you soon.